Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Michelle, and today I'm going to be sharing some Pride Month LGBTQ plus resources I'll be using with my kids. So if you're new here, I have a 10-year-old daughter, a 6-year-old daughter, a 3-year-old son. We've been homeschooling for the last 2 years. And I think this is kind of disappointing that there aren't a lot of resources out there, especially in the homeschooling community, talking about what you'll be using for Pride Month, and especially in the Christian community, it's pretty much non-existent. If you're new here, I'm also a Christian. Lutheran, specifically the ELCA denomination, fully support the LGBTQ plus community. So I wanted to share my list of resources, and I have videos from last year. I'll link up above where I shared resources as well. So every year I'm hoping to bring new resources for you guys to be able to use. So I'm going to start off with books. So most of the books I use two main resources. Little Justice Leaders subscription box, I'll link that up above. I've done past boxes in June. Again, not sponsored, just love the company. But they have a wonderful list, and what I really like about Little Justice Leaders is they pull resources from people affected or in that group. So you're hearing the voices from the people in that group, not somebody else's interpretation of that group, which I really appreciate. So they have great book lists. I've used them in the past. The last 2 years I've also used the American Library Association Rainbow List, and this is a list put together by a Rainbow Round Table Committee and a Social Responsibility Round Table Committee. They put their resources together, and every year they come up with a list of books with significant or authentic LGBTQ plus representative or issues. And this ranges from birth to 18 years of age. And I think it's really helpful. And unfortunately, if you're one of those libraries that don't have a lot of LGBTQ plus friendly materials, you can certainly request them. This is through a library or association, so they just have to access that list. And it's something I've requested at my library, that there be more options available, because they might be in the library, but they're not necessarily on display. We've had that problem in the past as well, so you sometimes have to go searching for them. I also suggest looking on online things like Hoopla, which is sort of your library card, Libby, apps like that that have resources. So all the books I'm going to show you here are from libraries, either my local library or the library next to me, that I've pulled, so I don't purchase. I do have some books in the LGBTQ plus arena in my bookshelf, but these are ones I try to bring in new ones every year, hence why I like using the library. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the books first, and then I'm going to talk about some resources. I have two different sections of books. I have books to help educate myself for Pride Month. I also have books that I'll be specifically using for my kids. So I think the important question is, why do I take the month of June to teach myself and my kids about Pride Month, LGBTQ plus rights? Well, I think it's important, one, because people are still being affected and attacked for the perceived or real sexual orientation and gender identity. It's still a real thing happening. So it's a current social justice issue, and social justice issues is something we talk about regularly in our homeschool. Two, it's a time to challenge both homophobic and transphobic legislation. You know, rights are never guaranteed. We've learned that in the last few years for sure, that it's a good time to learn about these rights and what they're fighting for. Three, I think Pride is a wonderful time to learn about a group of people that are dealing with social justice issues, discrimination, things like that. And it helps when you see people as people, help change your heart and your mind and learning more about it. And I think it's overall really empowering. Pride is all about loving yourself and embracing exactly who you are. And I think, how many times in our life can we say that we've been in a situation where we've been all accepted for who we are? It's very rare. I think this is a wonderful, joyous opportunity to really embrace acceptance. So those are the reasons we specifically celebrate Pride Month in our homes. So what I'm going to do for the books is I'm going to flip the camera over and give you a more detailed look at the books I'm going to be talking about with myself and my kids. First up will be the books I will be using for myself. So first one is The Savvy Ally, a guide for becoming a skilled LGBTQ plus advocate. Here's the table of contents. What I really liked about this book in particular was the assumptions or stereotypes. It goes over this. So if you're new to the LGBTQ plus community, or you're just a supporter of it and you want to know more on how to, ask about pronouns, things like that. And over here it talks about common questions. I think this is really nicely put together, and I really like that throughout the book it has these little fun facts or pop quiz, so it gives you information right there to go over. Here's another fun fact. Not so fun facts, so things that are important to know. So it's sprinkled throughout there, and I think it keeps you engaged. But this is a great introduction to, being respectful and learning more about the LGBTQ plus community. It goes over, gender, identity, expression, all that stuff. So I found this to be really helpful. This one is Seeing Gender, an illustrated guide to identity and expression. So this one I thought was really good too. It's the table of contents, so a good place to start, digging deeper, the author's story. So what I really like about this is it goes over, this is all about gender identity and expression. So it goes over, assumptions with gender stereotypes. I really like how it has interweaved in here kind of like scientific things, like how temperature determines sex in sea turtles and things like that. It gives you some terminology. So everything you want to know about gender identity and expression is in here. So I think this is really helpful. It does have spotlights on people in the LGBTQ plus community, which I think is important to not only talk about the community, but talk about specific people. I think that helps it bring more a personal aspect to people to really see this community as a group of people. So you have the information about the author in back. Really like that one. So every year I do try to read a memoir or autobiography to, like I said, really better understand the community, because I don't personally identify in the LGBTQ plus community, but I do want to be respectful and understand their perspective better. So I do try to read memoirs or autobiographies or something like that. So it shows All Boys Aren't Blue, and this is about an African-American man and growing up gay, and what his life experience was like with that, and dealing with both the problematic part of being discriminated against from the color of his skin and also from how he identifies. So I think I've not read this one yet, but I think it'll be a good read for me to help me really get that perspective. I also really like the Learning for Justice magazines. These are free magazines you can have sent to you. This is the spring 2023. You can also view them online. I will link it down below for you. But it does go over really useful things. So this one is talking about hard history. Because of June, it does have a reference to LGBTQ plus and things like that. But it's a great social justice magazine, I think, especially for educators, to learn more about these issues and how it does address how to teach them in a classroom setting. But I think in homeschooling, it's still really helpful resource. So this is the article on LGBTQ plus. So this goes over, banned books and how that affects people in the community. And what I really like at the back is there's a whole reading selection. So what we're reading, and it goes for younger children, older children, but for example, this will be one of the books I talk about. This is how I found that book and that resource. So it does have resources in the back as well. Again, you can access this online for free or have it sent to you. So I really do enjoy the Social Justice magazine. Now on to resources I specifically plan on using for my kids. So the first one is this. Now my 10-year-old has already read through this. I've read through this entire book as well. So Ever After New Queer Fairy Tales. And it's just fairy tales told from a different perspective. And I really liked it. I thought it was good. My daughter liked it. The graphics are good. So we'll probably pick a couple of these out of the book and read them together. But again, this is about princesses marrying girls and different representation, different stories. Again, nothing I would deem inappropriate for a child, but it was an interesting. And what my 10-year-old really liked is it's not really happily ever after ending. It kind of leaves the ending open-ended, which she actually really liked. So we will be reading some of those. So we are going to be doing a specific emphasis on pride this month for a couple of reasons. Why? Because I talked about why pride is important, but also we will be doing a Pride Fest for the first time as a family in a couple weeks. So I really want to emphasize what that celebration is about. So this is Pride, Inspirational History of the LGBT plus movement, and I really want them to understand, because again, we've gone over this numerous years. We've talked about social justice issues. This is not something new to my kids, but I want to give them more of a historical aspect of the movement, where it came from, why it's important. So you can see here it talks about kind of the history. I do like how they have profiles, so specific members of the LGBTQ plus community through the history and how things have changed and how it's still going to be a fight. It's still a fight for those. So this would be a biography of someone from that time period. I think this is really important to bring up too, because, you know, being gay isn't new. This is not something that, you know, you read in a book and suddenly you're gay. So banning books isn't going to change that. This is something that it's just how people are. They're born that way. At least that's how I like to see it. And I think having historical references to people throughout history that, yes, this did exist. It didn't just come up in somebody's mind. I think if you're concerned about your child reading a book that has a LGBTQ plus member in it or character in it, and that's somehow going to persuade your child, I don't think you're worried about the book. I think you're scared of allowing your child to think, and that's disappointing. Banning books, I don't think is ever a good solution. So I really like that. That was a resource. Again, we might not read it from cover to cover. Like I said, we probably just access specific details on the history of the movement and the profiles of people. And this one goes along with that. So this is No Way They Were Gay, Hidden Lives and Secret Loves. So this goes over historical people who, their primary source documents of letters they wrote. Let's see, here we go. Letters they wrote, so William Shakespeare, Abraham Lincoln, Gandhi, so on, so on. So it goes over how these people, for example, Abraham Lincoln lived with a man for 4 years and slept in the same bed, that kind of stuff. So it goes over, you know, the writings they did. For Shakespeare, they did sonnets and things like that. And Abraham Lincoln, they pulled letters that he had written, and it kind of breaks down, you know, what he's referring to and how, like I said before, being gay isn't something that's new. Being transgender isn't something that's new. And I think bringing in these historical aspects of it is helpful for my children to know those things. And this one is Beyond Magenta, Transgender Teens Speak Out. So this, again, is profiles of people who are in the transgender community, and it gives each of their biographies. Again, I think this is relating it to real life people, not just talking about it as a social justice issue or just a Pride Month, but really giving faces to what you're talking about, I think is helpful. So it goes over, you know, how they came out, their life story, their struggles, and I really like how it provides their perspective. It's the voice from the community, not somebody else writing about it. And I like that it includes pictures of their transition. So my kids understand that, you know, you can be born a certain way and feel a different way. So you can be born physically male and feel like a female. That's completely fine. So that is a resource I think we will really enjoy using. Now some picture books. This is not specifically related to LGBTQ plus community, but I think it has the same message, love you because you're you. So it's just a story about, you know, a mom telling her child that she will love her or love that child no matter what they do, how they act, who they are, because as it ends in the back, as parents, we love our children for exactly who they are, no matter what. And I think that's a great message to be sending, and that's a great message for Pride Month. So next one is, if you're a kid like Gavin, the true story of a young trans activist. So this is about Gavin, who, like I said, was an activist, and specifically there was an issue with bathrooms and things like that. But I like that it starts with this. What are some choices that kids get to make? And it goes over different choices. What are some choices that you don't get to make? And I really like that it's framed in that way. So he told his family that they thought he was a girl, but he really sees himself as a boy, and how that transition goes, and then how he had to use the nurse's bathroom, and how it's simple for most people to just use a public restroom, but for him it was difficult because of certain people's attitudes. And it goes into here about, it's not the kids who had the issues, it was the adults, some teachers that were having an issue with a transgender teen using a bathroom, and how he could have made a choice to just let it go, to use the nurse's bathroom. But he stood up for his rights, went to school board meeting. Even when they voted against him, he still continued on and did all this. And he went to other schools and stuff and had an entire campaign on transgender kids. I think it's just a really good way they set it up, that, you can't choose who you are, but you can make choices that make it better for other people. So he's working not just for himself, but to make it easier. And he talks about this in his note, for other kids or trans people. So I think that's a good story. Next, this is John's turn. This is all about a boy who is nervous because each week they perform something in front of the class or the auditorium that they're proud of, and he decides that he wants to show his ballet moves, and he's really nervous about what the other kids will say. And he goes out there and he's nervous, and he does it, and all the kids loved it and they thought it was awesome. Nobody made fun of him. So again, that acceptance idea, which is kind of what we're going for Pride Month. This is Okay to Sparkle. Again, this is a true story about a 7-year-old who was transgender and how they went through that process, and how they felt more acceptance being someone. Here we go. Here's the author. So it's their story and their acceptance of being transgender. So I think that's really, again, giving a face to this movement, not just talking about it as something that has happened. So what was Stonewall? So these are the Stonewall riots. Like I said in the other one, we're going to be talking about more the historical aspect of it. So we will be talking about that. Like I said, we will be doing a Pride Fest this year, so I really want to kind of give them an idea of what it will be like. And I really like that this is, it shows you Pride real life pictures. So it gives you a brief, history of the Pride, why it's important. Again, this is going to bring in the Stonewall, why that was significant. And I think this will be really good. And I like that it includes the pictures. So we'll be doing that before we go to our Pride Fest. Next one is Being You, a first conversation about gender. Now, we've definitely talked in our house about gender identity, gender expression, what the difference between all those things is. But I really appreciate that this is a simple picture book that talks about, how do you know what gender you are? Is it based on your body parts? How you can feel differently than your physical body parts are. Talks about pronoun usage and wearing just what's comfortable for you. It also talks about patriarchy, which I think is really important, about how certain genders are treated differently. Again, it covers over the bathroom issue. So again, it has a lot of these will have the continue the conversation or glossaries in the back, so lead you to further information, so gender stereotypes, gender pronouns, things like that. All right, and the last one is The Mother of a Movement, Jean Manford. She's an ally activist and co-founder of PFLAG, so this is Parents, Families, ally for the lesbian gay community. And I wanted to specifically read this one because we've been attending PFLAG events. So our local library actually had PFLAG gets together. It's nationwide. I'll leave a link down below if you want to see if there's any PFLAG groups local to your area. But the one local to me did a story time at the library, and it was really great. They talked about different books. They read a couple different books. We did a craft. They handed out some Pride accessories, which was really fun. But I really want to talk about the PFLAG, especially after doing the activities at the library. Again, talks about the person who co-founded the PFLAG movement, and she was a parent who was really proud of their child, and their child came out as gay to them, and he was beat up for it, and she actually wrote a letter in the New York Post about how she has a gay son, and how this was very different because parents weren't talking about that at the time. No one was admitting that their child was gay, and that led to Parents of Gays Unite to support their children. Again, these organizations are, as in the back, what PFLAG is and everything. It has a discussion guide, so if you want to make, if you wanted to lead to deeper conversation, there's those options. But what I really like is because it's an organization that is nationwide, you can access this, and they even have face groups, things like that, and it's a safe place for people of that community, of course, to get together, but also allies, people who want to support those in that community, which I consider my family to be that, and learn more about it. And they have a lot of free informational activities and things to do. So, for example, what PFLAG did at my library is they had these pride stickers, and they had color your own pride flag. So what was really cool is that they had a bunch of pride flags. They handed them out to the kids. And if you go through the handout they gave you, it shows you what each of these pride flags represent. And it's interesting because last year we read all about the pride flag, and we have a big one hanging outside our house, but we haven't talked about all the different versions that the pride flag has come across and what they mean and what those symbols mean. So I was really excited that they gave us the opportunity to have all these, and we're actually going to put them around our house and fly them. But they got to color their own flag, and it tells them more about the history of the pride flag and then what each of these flags actually represent, which I think is really cool. And I have some more references. So this is what my 10-year-old made. This is her own pride flag, which I thought was really cool. And this is my 6-year-old who did this. And again, they included a lot of stickers and things like that. And it was all free, so they included pride swag. So pride stickers, tattoos, lanyards, and bracelets. And what else? Oh, my daughter got a pair of rainbow pride shoelaces. So it was just really cool that this organization was able to provide the information and the fun stuff to promote Pride Month. So those are all the books and resources I'll be using. I did want to highlight some other things as well. So we recently just watched on Disney Plus Pride Around the World, and that was really cool. It wasn't long, I think it was like 45 minutes, but you got to see different Pride festivals throughout the world and see how they're different and where most of them are located, but more importantly, that there's more and more every year. And I think it was really cool for my kids to be able to see that. Another thing that I don't have the physical copy of it, but I have it on Hoopla. It's called My Shadow is Pink. Put a picture up there. This is an awesome book. Again, they made it into a short YouTube film, which I will also link down below. And I think it's a real story. So it's about a boy who likes to put dresses on and sparkly stuff, and how his shadow is pink. And I think the YouTube short really does a good job showing the inner turmoil and struggle this child has with who he is, and disappointing specifically his father, who is a very, manly type of man. He doesn't want to disappoint his father or upset his father, so he's hiding who he is. And what really comes out is that the father supports him and actually goes to school in a dress with him to support his son. And it tells you in the back of the book, it's true. This is a true person who the parent struggled with their child who wanted to dress a certain way, and coming to terms with that, and that unconditional love that a parent has, I think is amazing. And I think the short does a really good job showing the emotions, opposed to, I think the book is wonderful as well, but I think the short does a really good job showing that emotions and the struggles of both the parent and the child, or the father and the child in that situation. So those are all my resources I have. If you have any resources you think would be awesome, please link them down below. If you have any questions, let me know. No, thank you for watching.